we'll have this discussion.
Discussion? What discussion?
This is a discussion.
Combustion.
Coming to you from Denver, Colorado, this is Discussion Combustion Podcast with your hosts, Kevin Batstone and Arthur Raw.
That's one thing I've always loved about podcasting is real conversation. Sitting down at a table, having a beer, you know, talking about what's going on.
Totally agree.
It's just so different than the keyboard warriors, you know.
Yeah, sitting in front of a screen, I mean, I know it curbs my creativity in some ways. I now opt for a phone call because at least I can, like, be walking around my yard or, like, I don't know, doing something else while I'm...
So you're one of the, when you're on a phone, you're one of the pacers.
Yeah.
A phone pacer.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's not like, you know, not like a lunatic way, but I'm like definitely off doing things, especially outside. I think I gain a lot of inspiration or draw a lot of inspiration from the outdoors and nature. So yeah, like when I'm stuck in a computer screen, I'm just like, oh, this isn't going to work for me.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I like to be on the move, getting up, seeing different scenery. I'm definitely a pacer, though, on the phone. Like whether I'm talking to mom, whether I'm talking business, whatever. Like if I just vacuum the carpet, you'll see my shuffle tracks through the house from where I've been on the horn, you know?
That's funny, man. I like that.
It's a desired path in the carpet.
Oh, yeah, you see it.
Yeah, so this watch, it will go off after I walk for 10 minutes. Like it's 10 minutes and 3 seconds to be exact.
You've really got this dialed.
Well, it dings. It dings when it happens. And so like the other night I was talking to my dad last night and we were just chatting, and I was pacing, and all of a sudden my watch went off. I'm like, oh, I guess we've been talking for a little bit, and I've been moving around.
That's funny. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it does help with creativity, and I like what you said about being outdoors and you noticing that helps with your creative flow. When did you kind of notice because everybody can draw energy from the outdoors. I feel like that's something that humans can tap into. So when did you kind of start tapping into that?
That's a good question. I think I'm naturally an extrovert, so I choose to be around people, and I leave social situations with more energy, and that's what I think the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is basically like where you draw your energy from. I found when I was alone in nature, specifically there's a place up in Leadville where I like to go and meditate near my house, that I leave there energized. So there's something significant that's happening there because it's not the normal social situation that I'm drawing energy from, but it's still equal in the amounts of energy. So I guess I just started noticing things like that. Just I think being sensitive to your energy level is an important way of you recognizing how you handled a certain experience.
How many years ago do you think you noticed?
That's a big question. I would say I probably started doing it after I graduated college. So I'm 27 years old, so it was probably, let's say, 5 or 6 years ago, when I started just being very critical of myself. And I don't mean critical in a negative way, just being very, very mindful of the decisions I was making, the way I was presenting myself, how I showed up with the people in my life and just strangers or just in the world. Being super mindful. It was probably when I first moved out on my own down to Nashville, Tennessee, and it's just like, you know, that.
Okay, so that's where you're from, is Nashville?
From Ohio, and then moved to Nashville when I was telling you I was working in corporate America for a little while. I spent a few years working down there. I think that transition period from going from college to like being a real person in society is very difficult. Like living with your boys and like, you know, walking around. At least I was in a college town where like it felt like everyone knew everyone. And then you go into like this city where you're like trying to prove yourself in a corporate environment and like starting your 401k and all these like important things. But the juxtaposition between those two is intense. And I found myself very lost in that period. And I can look back on it now fondly, but it was incredibly difficult. For sure, the most difficult time of my adult life.
It's good to realize that young, though, man. I mean, a lot of people just kind of run with it because it feels like, okay, you know, I got my degree, I got this great gig, you know, I'm making money, making things work. But we're losing touch with, you know, is this really what I want? Am I being fulfilled with this position? And that's cool that you grabbed it early and was like, no, I don't want to do this. You know, because the old saying is you find out what you want by finding out what you don't want, you know, live and learn kind of thing. You know, that's good stuff. How was Nashville, though? How many years did you spend there?
I was there for like 2.5 years. Awesome town.
Fun town?
Yeah,
I've never been.
Town.
I've always wanted to go.
I love music. It's super cool. It's a low-key town. You know, there's a lot of touristy stuff you can do, like in proper downtown. And when, you know, like people would visit, we'd go down there. But, yeah, like check out Music Row and all of these really cool, like, indie venues with some awesome music.
You like country music?
Yeah, I like all music, frankly. like Chris Stapleton, for example, as a
yeah.
lyricist,
I mean,
I'm
so
just
good.
like,
Great.
yeah, I mean, as a lyricist,
Yeah.
he's fantastic, right? So, like, how can you not appreciate poetry, right?
Good
like,
songwriter. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like,
I mean, some people are out there they just can't get. I don't know, man. Poetry can be like too dull or something, and it's like it all depends what kind of spectrum you want to look at life through. Like,
Well said.
how open are you to everything, opposed to how centralized are you on your thoughts? And I've been trying to be more aware of that. What am I focusing on, sort of thing. And it's so interesting because like you talk about nature being healing and things of that nature, and there's a truth to that because trees, they provide oxygen, they help us breathe, like they provide life for animals, they create an ecosystem, and so there's like there's this energy there, and it's, I know it sounds hippie-ish or whatever,
Not hippie at all.
but what you're gonna get walking around on a trail like out in beautiful Leadville, Colorado, any season, it's gonna be amazing. Compared to walking downtown Denver in the concrete jungle, the artificial jungle, like there's going to be a different essence of energy that you feel and like what helps you feel full. And so I kind of like that you're doing that and that you recognize that, because it's kind of an odd conversation to open up, but I don't meet too many people that I talk to about this subject. That it's like you don't open up like, hey, do you really appreciate being outside?
What does nature do for you?
Yeah.
It does a lot of things, man. It really recharges the batteries. Like I make it a point to go camp as much as I can. The hustle and bustle, being in the concrete jungle, working the city jobs, driving in traffic, getting your road rage out or getting that aggression out in traffic. For me, it's road rage. When I can go up and camp, no cell service, a cooler of cold beer, a beautiful tree to look at, man, I come back feeling great. I don't even feel like I need 8 hours of sleep when I'm up there. Like it's just naturally revitalizing.
I agree. It's liberating. We've decided to structure our society in a way that we feel entitled to higher pleasures. Like we have cold beer, and we have vehicles that we use.
Ice.
And we care
Ice
about
water.
exactly ice water. We care about convenience, so that's why we have ibuprofen, because it's more convenient to have a pill to fix a headache than to rest and drink water and take a couple hours to relax. And I think there's something very, very intimate and very deep and hard to articulate the sensation when you're out in nature and you're just like simplifying your life, maybe. Yeah.
We've gotten far away from that, man. You brought up a good point, though. The instant gratification. Taking an ibuprofen, for example, which is something I try to stay away from. And who's kidding who? I drink a lot of whiskey, so I wake up with a lot of headaches. But I'd rather do, eat some oatmeal, drink some water, rest, go that route before I take any sort of – I don't like any of those chemicals going in my body, I choose to put this in there. I don't want to be forced or be put in a position where I have to take something. So the instant gratification, man, that's become an issue. It ties into the entitlement. It ties into, kind of where we're at. DoorDash. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I just DoorDash something to eat when I got here
DoorDash,
rather
too.
than stopping to grab it on my way.
Yeah.
You pay for those e-commerce things because you're paying for convenience, but it's also at the same time, it's just, I don't think it's going to return long-term good results for as far as human behavior.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I was listening to, and we talk about this frequently, like how social media pulls you in, how there's, this standard that is unspoken, but everyone recognizes it, sort of thing. Like, and people on social media are trying to reach this standard that is acceptable on the platform. And it's so interesting, the psychological effects of trying to conform, because that's basically what you're doing. Like, you're trying to get likes, you're trying to get interaction online, and you see how other people get likes and interaction. Wow, that thing did 100,000, and then so you try to conform, and like, what are they doing? And then so you have this whole like dopamine release structure based on false inputs that aren't actual, and it's crazy to me, man, because this is going to be a subject for the next 100 years. Like, people are going to be talking like, when humanity lost their way, what were some of the main causes? Well, probably one of the delusions of social media was one of the causes. It's just interesting to think about that stuff. And then you're putting yourself outside, you're getting positive reinforcement, there's no screen in front of your face. And so that's kind of what, you're looking at the two opposites, right?
It's a blessing and a curse, I feel like.
Yeah.
There's good and bad that comes with it, but sometimes the bad can outweigh the good. Social media, I'm sure with your business and with what we do here, it helps reach your viewers, your customers, all that sort of stuff, customer acquisition. So there's a lot of good that comes from it. But then there's, we call it the influencers all the time to show the realness. Let's not always just highlight the great times, and all that's well and good too, but let's balance it. Let's show the realness, the tough times, some of the struggles these influencers go through, because they're not setting a realistic expectation, I feel like, especially to the younger demographic that have grown up with screens in their face, scrolling Instagram every day. That's all they know. And so all they're seeing is almost this kind of fake manifested lifestyle with the hashtags this, that, and the other thing. They don't see those bad times. So when those bad times occur, it's like catastrophic,
That's a very interesting point. Yeah, it's so invasive, but it's only invasive in this kind of like propped up positivity. I think about that a lot with my business about, I run a gap year business. I work with primarily 18 to 23-year-olds. So where are they? They're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok. And I think about meeting them where they are or meeting them where I want them to be, which like, I want them to be on email, because email is the way that like I want to prepare them to be in the working world in the future, right? Because like a travel program like mine, it's not just the fun you gain and the friendships and the travel experience and everything that comes with that. It's baked in so many other experiences, like preparing you for whatever decisions you decide to make in your world, like in your life. And one thing that college I think misses on is teaching some of the subtle etiquettes of like email etiquette. Like when I was 22 years old and I was working a corporate job, I've gone back and looked at these emails that like on a phone you'd scroll like 6 times because it was like thanking them 8 different ways. Now I email as like a founder and CEO. I'm just like, thanks, great job, yes, Adam, or something like that. Or like,
direct, decisive.
Yeah, I call myself A or something like that, just to like be as simple as possible. But the thing is, like, you need to go through that process. So anyhow, I think about this all the time with social media, because like this is where my target market is, but I want them to be elsewhere in some ways. So I don't know. It's like an interesting dilemma, I guess.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a catch-22. Yeah. Do you feel like it's yielded results? I mean, the social media reach as far as your acquisition and some of the clientele?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. As well as being able to showcase our programs. I think, look, I mean, social media certainly has positives and it certainly has negatives.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like everything.
Exactly. Just the very fact is that it's unbelievably invasive in our life. So the positives and the negatives are very loud in our face every single day, all day. So it takes a lot of mindfulness to be able to decide, like, okay, this is real, this isn't real, and for like me to take the time to work through whatever it is I'm seeing out there. So
usually I consider everything as satire at first. I always,
so that's your default setting. You assume it's a joke.
Yeah, I'm just like, all right, and you can dig into it and see what's going on. But at first, like, I just, that's funny to me, or that's an interesting news article. But I'm just going to think everyone thinks satire at first and then uncover from there, And so, because it's so easy to read something and just assume that the title is correct. And I've been guilty of that so many times where I read the title of an article and then you actually read the meat of the article and it's like a way different thing. Like it's clickbait. They want you to click on it. So
they make money.
I assume it's satire. And I've been trying to do a challenge recently for myself where whenever I'm in between tasks, whenever I have a moment of time to think, too often myself and a lot of other people, you almost immediately like, and it's so programmed. It's muscle memory. It's programmed in so many ways. And so I've been practicing that to try to just put it down and be like, well, what am I going to get from looking at it right now? What's the point? Like what else could my mind be focused on that would be more productive? And it's interesting to be involved in that. And I've talked about this on the show for over a year. Like, I remember when Old School was on Daryl, I was all like, yo, I deleted Reddit. I'm like, I deleted this Reddit app and I deleted it and it was gone for like a week, maybe a week and a half. And then I re-downloaded it, so it's like, this has been going on for a while, but it's something I'm always trying to remind myself of. There's
checks and balances to everything. There's a time and a place for it. I mean, it's that boredom escape. Rogan had an episode talking about we're programmed, like you said, when that boredom hits, or if you're in like that awkward position. I always challenge myself, and I've kind of gotten conditioned. I don't know how you feel about this, Adam, or how this pertains to you, but like if you're by yourself, maybe having dinner, you're on a business meeting, you're traveling through an airport, I keep my phone in my pocket and I just observe, like sitting at the restaurant bar or sitting at the table by myself. I look around and just kind of see what's going on, really take in the sights, the smells, the sounds. And 9 times out of 10, everyone I see around me, even couples, they're not looking at each other. They're both looking down at their phones, eating their dinner salads.
Yeah.
It's just terrible, I feel like.
Yeah, embracing boredom is unbelievably hard. I find in my own life when I struggle with something, I know I need to lean into that. And I've done that in my personal life, I've done it in my relationships, certainly in my business, and I continue to do it. And frankly, I never want to be in a position where I'm afraid to lean into things that seem scary. Boredom is one of them. Like, I think coming back to camping, there's something very special about not having cell phone reception. Like, I think about the conversations, like the questions that are posed when you're sitting around a campfire. It could be something that if you were in the normal world, like in the concrete jungle, like we called it, you could just Google it. It was like, oh, who was that actor in that movie? And what was that line that they said? But when you don't have access to the type of technology and the information that we have, then your mind goes to this unbelievably playful place of just thinking through, like, okay, how old was I when I saw that movie? Where was I? Who was I with?
Okay.
What did that remind me of? How did that make me feel? And then I remember it was
that's
Samuel L.
fun.
Jackson or something like that, right? An unbelievably playful place to take your mind, and I think boredom is a pathway for that.
Man, that could be better said, because you're right. Campfire talks, crucial. That's really when you get back to not Googling something. So many times, especially in our group, all we do is argue about things. Who's right? Oh, no, let me prove you wrong. Here, Google says this.
Oh, yeah? Let me...
Yeah, it's just instant everything. You just ask Google, oh, Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time. Right? She's going to tell you that.
He's pretty good.
He's
pretty good.
Oh, he is the best of all time.
He's great,
but
man.
That's neither here nor there. The fact remains, you're right. It's good to disconnect from that. And just because they say your memory is you remembering the last time you remember it, which I don't know how true that is. I feel like that's probably above.
I've heard that too.
I have
So
heard
you're
that as
remembering
well.
the last time you remember it, which is, so if you haven't remembered some, it's slipped away. So it's good to remind yourself of the memories, man. And I guess that's one benefit I'll give a nod of the hat to with social media. For me in general is like a lot of memories will come up.
Totally agree with that.
And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about that. I'm glad I took a picture of this. So that's one of the silver linings that can come with it, looking at the positive side.
Yeah, and there's good and bad, and we've touched on this a bunch of times. It's when you do what I just kind of was talking about, like you have a free moment, and then you automatically go to that, and you don't know
It's
why.
safety, right?
You don't know why you're there.
Sense of
Maybe
comfort.
look at a meme, maybe check out the news, maybe see somebody do something stupid.
Yep.
Take your mind off things, but I want to keep my mind on things right now. Like, so you kind of know where I'm at, man, because I know this is our first time meeting. Like, 2021 has been a huge year for me. Like, I've overcome some addiction issues that have lasted a very long time. I've tried to get out of a relationship that I was being toxic in, and that was also tough for me. And so it's been like a year in like creating the business of the LLC for the podcast. So like I'm really trying to make some big moves this year. So like the thought process to me of thinking about your thought process is just pivotal to me right now because I have all this free time to focus, and like look inward. And it's interesting because it is a journey. You get to decide kind of where you want to take it and what you appreciate and don't. And it's a fun place to be. So that's kind of like where I'm coming from, like why I might be on these topics like I am.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah, and Kevin and I, we think it's great, man, that you, like we were talking about before hopping on the mic, you found a job that you said is your calling and has you've been doing that now and pursuing that now, and it's not easy to start something from the ground up. Your website looks beautiful. It's easy to use. Like, tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, I appreciate that. First of all, I appreciate you sharing that, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited to hear that 2021 has been a time of change, and I would love to support that, and I just think that's fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much,
keep
man.
pushing, man. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank
In
you, yes.
my experience, I think change happens from either running from something or chasing after something, and sometimes it's both. But there's real power in that. So
It's
keep pushing.
a good year for it, man.
That's awesome.
Well, and it's being around people like yourself, like this podcast. I'm so grateful. It's been such a great platform just to get to know people. Kevin and I we feel honored that we sit here and get a chat with people and share a beverage or two but we've surrounded ourselves with go-getters, people who are hustling in their area, and that's a really cool energy to surround ourselves with. You know, and so that's why we like to open that up and talk about that. Like, you know, what made it happen for you, sort of thing.
Yeah, perfectly said about surrounding yourselves with people like that. I think, you know, there's research that shows we're an average of the 5 people we spend the most of our time with. So for me, I'm extremely critical about surrounding myself with people that are better than me, kinder than me, more educated than me, more thoughtful than me, more experienced than me, know accounting better than me, just so I can always be chasing after something, because there's real power in that. So anyhow, back to the original question. So I'm the founder and CEO of AdventureEXP. We host destination work programs. So what those are is we work with college students, gap year students, and set them up with seasonal jobs and internships in desirable locations. The whole idea is just, I believe in the power of the transformative experiences that come from meaningful travel. And what that means is traveling with a purpose. And that could be, you know, going to visit, you know, family in California, for example, and your purpose is you want to get closer to your uncle, for example. Or like me, when I was in college, I lived in China for a couple summers. You know, I studied at a university and then interned for a startup there. And I was there because I wanted to expose myself to the Chinese culture. I wanted to live on my own in a foreign place. I wanted to try new things and be bold and unapologetically myself and just be in a foreign place. Yeah, just in a place that I had never been to before, right? There is power in taking time on in your life through the lens of travel. So those are the types of programs that we host. And support young people to be the best version of themselves. That's our whole mission.
I think that's outstanding, man, for sure. You have a lot of good energy and a really direct, you know, motive here of what you're trying to drive. I think that's fantastic.
Thanks.
When did you first start to like feel like, okay, and shape the idea of this is my calling, this is what I want to do? Do you recall that moment of like when you started to be like, okay, corporate America's not for me. I'm going to start something like this?
Great question. It's certainly been a progression. I remember the specific moment where I realized it was time for me to start my own business. I was on a backpacking canoe trip in Moab on the Green River with a couple buddies, and just talk about boredom. I mean, we were down in this canyon for 5 days. There was nobody else around. We were like camping with our tent flies off, and it was just like swimming in the river all day, every day. It was unbelievable. And I remember I discovered a Hebrew expression, Ve'im lo akshav imotai, which means if not now, when?
How was that? How did it go?
The expression?
Yes.
Ve'im lo akshav imotai.
Ve'im lo akshav imotai.
Imotai, yeah. I was in a conversation, and somehow that expression came up, and it found me like bricks just fell on me, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my burden to bear. Yeah. So I realized that I had reached a level in my development that I was now professional enough, established enough, and courageous enough to just say, if not now, when? And I reached a point where I was ready for this business to succeed and equally ready for it to fail, which I think is a really important mindset to accept, because, dude, it's vulnerable. Like putting yourself out there every single day and just exposing yourself and just saying like, this is me, you know, this is everything I believe in. And like the imposter syndrome that comes with trying to prove your concept, and like, you know, cold calling employers that we partner with and things like that. Like, it's so nuanced. So if not now, when really came to me. And that came to me in the summer of 2020 when I was backpack canoeing on the Green River in Moab. But I would say like the transition from corporate America into this space of meaningful travel, I found a really cool organization, which is why I moved out to Colorado, working with international students, bringing them to the United States for internships. And at the onset of COVID, I just thought, hey, there should be something like this where American young people have a structured and guided but yet independent opportunity for them to step out of their comfort zone, feel safe, but like be themselves. So anyhow, I set them up with paid jobs so they can work to offset the cost of their travel, because my whole thing is like, cost is a barrier to entry. And that's a problem, because I think the meaningful outcomes that come from travel, cost cannot be a barrier to entry. So that's why they work to offset the cost of their travel.
It's terrific. I mean, it's like a 2-for-1 special almost, you know, gaining work experience, seeing some great, you know, places around the country, the world, wherever. Yeah, that's terrific, man. I feel like you could be a motivational speaker.
Wow, man, that's a huge compliment. Thanks for that.
That's what I'm feeling motivated.
Wow. Fuck yeah. Let's keep it rolling. That's cool.
We're going to keep it rolling up in here. So, man, yeah, that is so cool, because, I mean, you're just hitting this other level where you want to be, like, your purpose is to help people experience. And that's a great place to be, because like you said, like you knew that you had the wherewithal to do it, and like you were ready for a failure and a success, and there's so much strength into risking it. Like, fucking roll the dice. Like, it's so good. It's so good to roll the dice, because you never know what's gonna land, and you never know what you can truly do until you put yourself in that scenario. Like, some people just want to be so complacent and so comfortable, but like they don't even know how talented and resourceful they are because they've never tested it. You know, so that is such a great place to be, accepting the challenge of life, accepting being uncomfortable a little bit. Like, my life has been very uncomfortable in the last year, but it's been the best year that I've had in the longest time.
Wow.
And it's just, I preach that because, I mean, you said it, you're ready to fail. Like, that's the thing is like, you can't do things hoping that it's going to be sure. You have to do things because you're compelled to do it. And like, who cares if you fail? You lived. Because time is, like, I mean, what? It's already November 2021. Like, come on, man. Like,
Time's cruising, man.
Well said.
Yeah, no time like the present.
Yeah, and I'm not willing to accept regret in my life. You know, I refuse to accept that I want to look back in 20 years and say, man, I should have taken that plunge and just tried that. I'm going to act with, I want to manage my risk, right? So there are processes you go through of starting a business, right? You want to make sure you have a vetted out idea, and you talk to people that are in adjacent industries, and you have advisors and mentors, and lean on your network as much as you possibly can. Yeah. Spend time outdoors.
The 5 people that you hang out with.
Exactly. Right. Be very careful about how you're spending your time, which I believe is your most valuable resource. Access to capital, right? Either your own or others, like figuring out a way that you can like reasonably start, and how long of a runway do you need until you can be like generating revenue or profitable. And then risk management. You just think about, how much can I tolerate risk? Like, I don't want to have sleepless nights. Sleep is really important, right? So, so it's for sure nuanced. It's very complicated, but yeah, I'm just not prepared to take on regret in my life. So I'm just going to make decisions now and deal with whatever wake comes from it.
If there's a mistake, then you just simply learn from the mistake. Like, you don't regret the mistake.
Well said.
Well, yeah, like Bob Ross said, the old painter, my favorite guy from the 90s, man. We don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents.
Well said.
You know, and there's a lot to learn from those happy little accidents. You know, Steve Harvey says it best, too. I know I've said this on the show a few times, but if you don't jump, you don't know if your parachute's going to open. You know, so sometimes taking that leap, you know, we all got to take a leap sometimes. You know, I did that with my last job. After 13 years, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I wasn't happy. I needed a new challenge, you know. Took that leap, man. I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, so sometimes you just got to hit the ground running. Give it a go. Give it a try. Well said. You just don't know what's around the next turn. So it's hard to break out of complacency, though. You know, tying back into what we were talking about earlier. A complacent, easy, you know, lifestyle, especially during the pandemic. We got used to it. So, you know, what's if not now, then when?
If not now, when?
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's gonna be the saying of the week.
That's your hashtag.
Oh, yeah?
That might be the episode title.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, let's title that. If not now, then when?
That's right.
I like that.
I'm honored to hear that. Yeah, I mean, that expression very much found me. And I think problem solving from a stance of not accepting no as a reasonable response, at least at the onset, of figuring out what would it take to be a yes, I think is a much more playful place of decision making, and it can allow you to reach like really, really fantastical ends or ideas or concepts or whatever it is you're working through than just saying, no, I can't do that because of this, this, and this. You know, right now we're building our international programs. We have our core domestic business where we bring Americans to other areas in the United States. But I subscribe to the philosophy that domestic travel is a path towards international travel. So they come on my program, they gain some experience, they earn a couple bucks, let's say a few $1,000s in a 3-month, stint in Aspen as a ski instructor. But they also gain their emotional intelligence, their self-advocacy, their confidence. They figure out more critically what they want out of their experience. So now the next stage is, right now I'm building 3 international programs, a hospitality internship in the Galapagos, a work exchange in the Sacred Valley of Peru near Machu Picchu, and an anthropology internship in central China.
I'm getting excited. I'm like, do you do midlife crisis males?
Hell yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. So like the whole idea is just, right now in the wake of COVID, to think about what is it going to look like to travel to the Galapagos for a 3-month internship? How do I secure the housing? How do we get them bicycles there?
About.
Yeah, there's so many nuances. So if I started it by saying, no, we can't do that because how are we going to figure out the immigration process of getting American students into the Galapagos? That can't be the way that I solve problems. It has to be, yes, we do this if we have access to a really good immigration attorney that also speaks English and lives in the Galapagos, if we have access to this and this and this, and then all of a sudden you've opened up this world of opportunity. And for me, just thinking about the human experience, how much more fun is that if I'm thinking about this awesome opportunity to send Americans abroad to the Galapagos, than like, no, we can't do that because in COVID, like, how are we going to figure this out?
What's the foundation of your thought process on it? Like because that's what I'm hearing from you, is that there's always a couple ways to look at one thing, but you're looking at it like, this is going to be a great experience for the people that do this program, and I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Opposed to
why not?
Because it's easy to.
If not now, when?
Yeah, because you could focus on the problems all day.
Exactly.
That's true.
Learn from the problems, process the problems. They're important, but they're not to be focused upon all day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm by no stretch an expert on mindfulness. I mean, I try and practice it in my own life, but essentially that's the core value in mindfulness, is that you can pick your thoughts just like you pick the clothes that you put on in the morning. And yeah, we all have problems. Like, are you familiar with the literary concept sonder?
No,
Have you ever heard this word? I try and expand my vocabulary because I think there are like words that describe specific sensations in our world. So sonder is that feeling that comes over you when you realize that everyone else in the world has the same level of complexity in their life as you.
that's the word, sonder.
Yes.
Okay, no, seriously, I've been thinking about that word, like about the definition of that word for years, because I heard it years ago, but I would always be like, what's that word?
Oh,
like,
really?
Like, and I would never look it up. Yeah, but no, because it's like, it's so...
Oh, what are the chances of that? That's funny.
It's perplexing to the human mind to think that everybody else's life is as complex and important as yours is.
Exactly.
And it's sonder is the word for that.
Exactly. So that sensation, when it just hits you like a pile of bricks. Wow, I keep using pile of bricks. I think I need to go like build a house or something like that. But anyhow,
You should have been a mason.
yeah, exactly. So sonder, it's like everybody's life is equally as complex as yours. They have different complexities.
Yes.
Someone had childhood trauma from being a youth in foster care. Someone had divorced parents. Someone didn't have the funds to be able to go to college, or whatever it is. Everyone has their own challenges. But we all have equal levels of complexity. So yeah, I mean, I think mindfulness is really just being able to select the thoughts and recognizing problems for what they are, pushing them aside when they're not helping you, and bringing them back when you have time and space to work through them.
What a breath of fresh air.
That's the word of the week right there. We usually have user submissions for word of the week.
Yeah.
That's the word of the week.
Yeah, word of the week, sounder. Brought to you by, did I say it right?
Sonder.
Sonder.
Yeah.
Not sounder.
Not sounder, sonder.
That sounded like flounder, like the fish, which is delicious.
Sonder, brought
yeah.
to you by Adam.
That's right.
Got
From
you
Leadville.
back. That's cool.
No, it was a good word for sure. And yeah, it's so true, man. We're in control of our thoughts. And I'm trying to get better at it, man. I'm 32 years old and I still struggle at times, with where do I want to put my focus and my energy today? Because I have a tendency sometimes to focus on little shit, stupid things that really, in the big scheme, it's not going to be worth anything in a week. And I forget which guest it was. I had a guest on maybe a few months ago, and he told me, is what you're letting your day be ruined about going to bother you a week from today? Is that still something that is on your mind?
Yeah.
And that I still try to remember, but it's hard sometimes in the moment. If you're fired up about something, whatever that is, like we were talking before we jumped on the mic, you work some stuff out in traffic. So I've been trying to do that as well. Like my drive home from here to go see my girlfriend, who I live with, I try to get that energy out so I'm not bringing that in, and clouding her day as well.
I like that.
Yeah. So, again, it's a choice. It's a choice that I have to make and be aware of. But being aware of it, I think, is also a big step because it's easy to be like, oh, no, that's not a problem. I'm just this way, thick-headed,
Agreed.
All that kind of stuff. So the more I know, the more I learn.
Perfectly said, man. Perfectly said. Yeah, this past ski season, I tore my ACL, and it was the first time I've physically injured myself, and also the first time I've ever had physical limitations to do something. I subscribe to the attitude of like, oh yeah, let's say yes to things. Like I like saying hell yeah to things, basically. Like I just want to, try new things, and especially getting out, skiing or hanging out with friends or whatever it is, mountain biking. this injury humbled me. It was it was so difficult for me to move from FOMO to JOMO. And it was a conscious choice and what JOMO is the joy of missing out instead of the fear of missing out. So to make this conscious shift of saying, okay, physically, I am unable to participate in these activities that I really want to be in. And again, on social media, I'd see my friends, I'm like, man, they're like, grilling out in the lot and they're having fun and everyone's laughing and like, look at how much snow there is or something like that. And I mean, and it goes on because I tore my ACL in December and I'm still recovering now in October. To switch FOMO to JOMO, the joy of missing out, and recognizing now I have more time to read some of the books that are on my list. Now I have the time to spend with my life partner Jordan and us to train our dog and things like that. That shift, it's a conscious shift, and it takes so much energy to figure out that you want to make that shift. But I mean, it pays dividends forever, basically, if you can figure out that type of way of perceiving the world, I guess.
And sometimes those life reminders, like you said, tearing your ACL is a good reminder of
yes.
What do I want? What do I want to do with my time? And kind of makes you appreciate those things. I feel like those humble reminders that sometimes life throws at us.
Yeah, kicked my butt.
Yeah, ACL tear, I'm imagining. I've never had any injuries like that. I've broken a few bones, but knock on wood.
Used to hoping, partner.
Hopefully this is wood.
I think it is.
Right, God willing. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But the lessons I derive from it, I would wish on, frankly, everybody. Without the injury, if it was possible.
So when did that injury happen again? I'm sure you just said.
Yeah, I tore my ACL in December 2020.
Okay.
Had surgery in February 2021, and the recovery's going, and it's got ups and downs. But it was a truly humbling experience, and the reflection I had just by being more stationary, or by, finding it difficult to like put pants on or go walk my dog. The limitations that I had.
It is humbling, isn't it?
Unbelievably humbling.
Yeah, I had a horrible. I know you Kevin knew this, and I know Kevin's dad is about to crack up, but I had this horrible ankle injury, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
In the pandemic, and so it was like it was demobilizing, but I could still like wear a boot, but it was so bad that it was bad for months, and my ankle is still much bigger, but yeah, I couldn't walk on it. Like it was hard to go to the bathroom, it was hard to shower, and those type of injuries do humble you, and it's like you forget what you have, with health. I feel good, I feel okay, everything's all right, I can walk, I can jog. Like you kind of get complacent with the fact that you're able.
Take it for granted, yeah.
And then once you lose it, it's like it's crazy. It's like a very
comes out of nowhere.
It can be a learning experience. I ended up drinking too much when I was on it, but. I think we all have our vices. I didn't handle it like you handled it.
I mean, we all have our vices, right?
Yeah.
Like I certainly lost efficiencies, which I would say, using overusing alcohol in that instance is just like you being less efficient with your time, and I certainly do the same with my own vices, right? It was so funny because I was like, I was launching my business in January 2021, right? So I'm going into this and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to have a boss. It's going to take time for me to coordinate with my developer and my marketer and this and that and all of these things. I'm going to ski my face off every single day, and then tore my ACL. And then I realized starting a business takes a huge amount of time. Any amount of time you're allocating to starting a business, double it. And I truly mean that. I don't mean that to scare you. It's certainly not to scare you. Actually, I would never want to discourage someone from chasing after their dream, but just to recognize it.
You got to work hard.
You need a huge amount of resources, primarily time. It just takes time to think through things, fix typos on your website, to find the right developer, to figure out what is your social media strategy, to figure out who you want to call in terms of clients and what businesses you want to establish. Thank God for this injury, truly, because my priorities were mixed up, and they weren't chasing after bad things. Look, I just wanted to ski my face off with my friends because I didn't have any obligations or any perceived obligations. And then I realized that it was actually very, very purposeful, and it was the shock that I needed, exactly what you're talking about. It was, so that was my interpretation of it.
Yeah, and that's choosing what you're going to put your energy on. Because the reverse side of that, you could have been, I tore my ACL, I'm down and out for the count. I don't feel like I need to do shit. The mind can go there.
Yes.
So to take that, choosing where you're going to put that energy, use that as a learning experience. Say, okay, now I can have time to regroup, realign, refocus, re-engage.
Perfectly said, man. Perfectly said.
It's good stuff, man.
That is epic. That is epic. So, I know that you work from home. I know that you have your own business.
Oh, it's would you rather time.
Yeah, I had a would you rather. It's kind of like on the same
Let's
thing,
rip.
so it's a good segue. So the question is, and actually I think I could freestyle this without pulling it up. Like, would you rather work from home, 5 days a week and have your normal 2 days off on the weekends, or would you rather, have to go into the office 4 days a week and get 3-day weekends? So it's like either you get to work from home, but it's the normal 5-day work week, or you go into the office and then you always have 3-day weekends.
Interesting question. I thought I felt very strongly about one. Now I'm just thinking about it. Probably the working from home for 5 days, primarily because I just believe in freedom. And I think working from home takes discipline, right? And I mean, look, we've all been gotten a crash course in figuring out discipline. And for me, I can't have Oreos in my house. If Oreos are in my house, I'm unable to be disciplined.
I'm eating jalapeno kettle chips in the green bag like a fucking Cookie
Exactly,
Monster.
right. So discipline, in every sense of the word, right? So for me, I think if you're able to figure out how to discipline in your life, working from home has some luxury.
It does.
And you can choose how you spend your time, which ultimately I think the relationship we have with work in this country is flawed. I'm not saying it's wrong. I don't think I'm qualified to say if it's right or wrong. I just think it's flawed in that we sacrifice so much in supporting an organization. And I think about this as a business owner, thinking about my employees and what they sacrifice to support my organization. It's not that the sacrifices aren't meaningful. If you're really vying for that promotion, if you want to get your year-end bonus, if you are really proud of a project you're working on, and that's why I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just flawed in that we've created a culture where someone would apologize to their boss for saying, "Sorry, I'm late. I had to drop my kid off at school."
Yeah.
Why would you? What environment was created?
Where's the flexibility?
Exactly. And what if an employee ever apologized to me for having to go to the doctor? I would go so inward about what did I do to create an environment where someone has to feel sorry for taking care of their health?
Yeah.
So anyhow, I'm taking this way too far.
This is great. Yeah, keep going.
But I really think it comes down to flexibility, being able to choose how we spend our time. If you're going to go work for a corporation, good, do it. And if it checks your boxes for you, even better. But I think if the more it can be on that individual person's terms.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sonder, for example, everyone has complexities. How can a corporation possibly apply a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday to every single person, given the fact that everybody has their own complexities and their own obligations that they have in their life? How can we just have this blanket application to everyone? It works in some ways, but that's what I'm saying. I think it's flawed in some ways.
Work.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a price.
Exactly.
And everyone's built differently too. Like you said, the more freedom that we can have when it comes to the professional and personal life, I think the happier everyone's going to be. And going back to the conditioning of the corporate lifestyle, the 8 to 4s, the 9 to 5s, Monday through Friday, maybe a 3-day weekend when the holidays are around. That becomes that complacent lifestyle that pays the bills. Maybe you can go skiing on the weekend and afford to do all that. That's all well and good too, but it's not for everyone. It's certainly not for the three of us in this room.
Yes.
We want to control our own time and money. That's my goal, is to get fulfillment out of what I do and be able to be in complete control of my time and money.
Well said. In my experience, there are no solutions. There's just trade-offs. Okay. So in this situation of, I sometimes will go mentally and be like, okay, if I was still working my corporate job, I'd probably be making $125,000. I'd have this in my 401k. I just think about that, right? Because now everything else that's happened from me leaving that corporate job to now, I'm unbelievably proud of. I would put my stamp of approval on, and I'd do it 100 times over if I could. However, now looking at a situation, me being an entrepreneur and the sacrifices I've had to make in not having a secured salary, no one tells me what to do, which sounds cool, but it's also not that cool on a day where you're lacking motivation.
You have to figure it all out.
Exactly.
It's
so
on you.
the trade-offs of I'm not going to get pre-approved for a mortgage on a mountain house, but I'm able to go skiing, on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. because I feel like it, right? So there's no solutions. There's just trade-offs. And ultimately, I make decisions that I think, the utilitarian in me is what's going to deliver relatively more happiness to more people. And I try and make decisions in that way.
Solid, man.
Yes.
Couldn't be better said. That's the mindset I think we all need to be in. But again, it's not for everyone, right? Like it has to kind of pertain to it's definitely speaking to me. You know, I definitely feel moved by this conversation and kind of goal-wise what I want to do, you know, because I feel like I could be torn either way, man. I have a tendency to get complacent and just, this is enough. I'm going to drink my beer. I'm going to do my part, check the boxes.
That's the easy thing to do, right?
Check the boxes, right? Because then you feel like, okay, I'm doing my part. But is that enough? I just feel like there's more.
Yeah,
there's more.
Interesting.
Like what actually like makes you feel complete, you know? And honestly, like for me as a kid, like I know Kevin was talking to me like how we were both into music, how I wanted to rap, and the reason why is because I wanted to put together lyrics that were pure messages that could help build oneself. Like, you know, it's not like rap about, you know, I have money. Like, I don't own guns. Like, I've never rapped about that. Like, I've sold marijuana in the past, but, like, I don't rap about drug dealing. Like, it's more about the journey of life that I speak about. And so, you know, this podcast scratches the same itch. Like, Kevin and I get to come on here and talk to great people like you. You get to come on here and speak your voice without anyone saying, no, you can't say that. You're not allowed to talk about that. You know, so it's like putting that positive message out there that's not tainted by any external forces. You know, that's what makes me, and you have to recognize your own thing. Like, what makes you feel full? Like, what completes you as a person?
Wow.
You know, and everybody needs to find that for themselves, like, because it's something different for everyone. You know, so like that's a good challenge to have out there, is like, you know, challenge yourselves this week and maybe think about what actually makes you feel good as a human being. Like, is it taking care of kids? Is it having a family? Is it, you know, having a pet? Is it being productive? Is it running a company? You know, like, what is it? You know, keeping your house clean. Wow. Like, there could be so many different areas.
Yeah.
And it's just, take some time to think about that, because it's important for us all to be a little humble, take a little time, and enjoy this existence, because goddamn, the clock is ticking.
Amen.
I don't know. That's how I feel, man.
You know, while so I fundamentally agree with everything you just said, first of all, and I was thinking about how important that is. That essentially that's the most important decision, right? Figuring out what brings you joy, right? It's kind of shocking that our education systems don't teach that. Like, we learn the quadratic formula, which, like, you know, I'm not squandering that or anything. I mean, that's important to teach us how to learn, but like, why not ask questions like, what brings you joy? And like giving you tools to be able to make the right decisions that will deliver you more joy to you and your family and your loved ones and people in your life. It's like, laying down the path in front of you and like giving you the right tools that you need, right? Like, yeah.
So true, man. I've really started to question the curriculum, and I don't have kids. I'm, again, 32 years old. Recently, I've really started to question the curriculum for reasons that you just said.
Yeah.
You know, the true life valuable lessons that we could have been shown earlier. You know, you have home ec and things of that nature, accounting, some basic stuff. But man, if we really break it down, how to do your taxes annually, you know, there's just, I feel like the curriculum.
What compound interest is.
Yep, exactly. You know, the curriculum, I feel like, is still kind of shaped towards the 60s and 70s kind of mindset a little bit in public schools. Now, this is different geographically. If you live in the South, if you're in the Bible Belt, if you're, you know, there's definitely some variables there. But I think that's a good point to bring up, is what is the public school curriculum really getting at here? You know, and what are we missing? Where can we improve there?
Have you read People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn?
No, I have not. Is it a good read?
Oh man, it'll rock your world. It's a dense read, but truly it'll rock your world. Basically, like, history is written by the winner. Just as a concept, history is written by the winner, and American history was written by white males that are Christian with money and power.
Makes sense.
So this book tells history from like time of Christopher Columbus up until maybe the Clinton administration. I can't remember exactly, but basically it tells the loser of history. And I don't mean loser in the sense that like they're losers. I mean like truly they lost in history, so they didn't have the authority to write the history books. Anyhow, without preaching too much, but basically what it is like we've created a society that services a certain type of person. Like in this book specifically, it's called the elite, and you know, like that group of people is called the elite, and like our school systems.
1%ers.
Yeah, and our school system is designed in a way for a group of people to listen to an authority figure, to be in certain places at a certain time. That's why like each period is scheduled in a certain way, and curriculum is laid out. There's and this is for sure changing. I mean, education system is certainly getting better, but like there's not as much free think and things like that. It creates a mindset.
It's so true because what you're talking about. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to break it down how I just saw it, right? Like. I believe that corporations run the show across the globe. You know, they're the powerhouses. They control economy in any nation, right? So you have these huge corporations. And of course, they want to have workers that are happy, that want to stay working. So you know, they train you from a young age to, you know, learn how to hit, you know, clock in. You get there at a certain time.
Yep.
You know, and because they want people to end up being complacent, so then they can do the hard work at the ground level, the front line. Okay, so because if you start having a lot of people like yourself, Adam, who realize a dream and see something bigger out of themselves, like you believe in yourself is what it was. And so you went and chased something. You did something because you believe in yourself. And if you had everybody doing that, then they wouldn't have people to do all the work.
I agree with you.
You know, and these big corporations are so in control that, of course, they can, you know, lobby and pay for policies to get approved. And, of course, this stuff. So, like, I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm just trying to break it down like that. Like, why are the corporations doing this? You know, how do they have that control? And how are they dictating how people are educated? And it all trickles down to the fact that, like, they want us to be on our phones, lost in social media, comparing our lives. They want us to be drunk and not coherent. That's why booze, and I've done all the drugs. That's why alcohol is the cheapest and on every single fucking corner, because they want population control. It goes to education. It goes to ripping people off in healthcare. Like charging people $4,000 for an ambulance and like $3,000 for 2 nights stay because you're suicidal in like a place. Like, like they're like ripping people off and trying to control us in so many different layers that it's hard to break free from that. But like that whole concept is frustrating, but also can be freeing in the sense that if you understand that, then you can be like, okay, well, how am I getting sucked into that?
Well said.
You know, and it's I don't know. That whole thing is just this whole rat's nest.
Yes, I agree. It's very complicated, but it's not all bad. Also, too, like having police, for example, or let's take out police. Let's say having laws, right? So which comes from of morality. Having that because we've decided to live in neighborhoods, which means we have people that are not directly in our lives, but they're forced in proximity wise to be very close to us. It's important that we have certain guidelines, morality, which have turned to laws, which have like social norms and things like that. That, you know, it prevents us from being in chaos. So there certainly are benefits from living in our society.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, certainly are.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, like I don't necessarily have a solution for the alternative, but I think a lot of it probably comes down to capitalism, at least in the way we structure our society, and that we prioritize compensation. And, you know, when you talk about how corporations like guide people into certain fields and things like that, we also create a value system. You know, we value a doctor more than an electrician. But the reality is the doctor couldn't do what he's doing in a hospital without the electrician. However, we've placed value. And value is something I think about all the time, especially in my business, right? Like I'm creating value from nothing, right? What is value? Well, it's completely subjective. And it's completely subjective. So we create value the same way that we value. And when I say value a doctor more than an electrician, just look at the way they're compensated, right? So anyhow, it's just like, have you guys ever seen the bit in Dr. Seuss? It's called The Sneetches. It's like these yellow humanoid creatures, and some of them have green stars on their belly. Some of them don't have green stars on their belly. Have you seen it?
It's ringing a bell. Like that book I've definitely read.
As an adult, I think everyone should go back and watch the Sneetches, because it's a really powerful lesson in that, you know, the Sneetches that have stars on their bellies, they consider themselves to be a higher class and, you know, more worthy and higher value than those that don't have stars. And a businessman comes in and he creates a machine where he'll put green stars on Sneetches' bellies, and then he, you know, subsequently now stars are no longer valuable, so he creates a machine that will remove the stars from your belly. And then everyone's going in and out of each of these machines, and then he just leaves town, and now they no longer know, is it good to have stars or is it bad to have stars? And I think about that all the time, in that in order for there to be haves, there have to be have-nots. Well, as like a concept, especially in capitalism. But yeah, I mean, just to think about, like, we place value on things, and it's entirely subjective.
That's a great point, and we've peeled back a lot of layers here, you know, because there's a lot of different angles that we could approach this with. You know, capitalism itself, in theory, was designed that the cream will rise to the top, right? You have an idea, you're a businessman, you're an inventor, right? Your idea could outperform the next guy, you know. I built a washing machine that does this. Well, I built one that does this, you know, and the cream continues to rise to the top. But, you know, then there's the other side of it with the corporate greed, like Art even mentioned, and kind of the layers that's developed and what it is. You know, I think we've lost value with what the idea of just putting your best ideas forward, working hard, doing all these things, and not putting, like, you know, the almighty dollar isn't the end all be all, right? And we have placed so much value on that. And circling back to the curriculum, you know, get straight A's, get your scholarships, get your grants, go be a doctor or a lawyer. We you know, that's really where we want to try to send our students. Whereas you're right, trade industries, compensated well, electricians, plumbers, things that are so essential and valuable, we don't hold those to the same standard. And I think that we probably should look at that. And back it up even further than that, the teachers are not compensated. You know, typically these guys are making less than $40,000 a year, $35,000, $30,000 in some of these podunk towns.
It's unbelievable, right? And on top of that, they've got $80,000 in student loans. Like,
there you go.
Like, I say a lot in the context of my program. I mean, my program focuses on experiential learning, and I'm working with college students, so I fit into the higher education bit, but I feel very strongly that higher education is broken. It's not that it doesn't work. It worked really well for me. I met some of my best buddies. I met my life partner, Jordan. She and I went to college together. So from a social standpoint and from the, you know, self-confidence and living on my own and all the things like that, it works. But we've decided it's this golden ticket opportunity, and the problem there is that it's very expensive. Not everyone fits into that box of read, regurgitate, and be graded on it. And then I think most importantly, and this falls into the realm of my program, is that there's a growing disconnect between the skills you learn in a degree versus the skills you need to actually excel in an industry.
And the field, right?
Exactly.
So true.
So like when I made that comment about meeting students where they are on social media versus meeting them where I want them to be in email, because email is widely adopted as a professional communication tool, that is a skill that is not taught. There's no class, and I don't know what the class curriculum would be like, to be fair, but there's no class that teaches you about email etiquette or how to schedule a meeting with your boss.
You have to go to
and
college
things like
for that.
Yeah, it's complicated, right? It's
actually, no.
Selective learning.
I didn't even learn that in college. I learned it doing sales.
Exactly.
I learned how to write emails. Doing a job.
In the trenches, taking grenades, as I like to say.
Exactly.
Real life experiences.
So, it's possible that those lessons stick because you were like forced into this, and you were like, I'm drowning. I need to figure out how to get these people on this other department to listen to me, and I need to communicate this all in an email. Like, maybe that lesson sticks with you more than just like fitting into the daily tedium of, you know, every single class that you're going in throughout your 4 or 5 or 6 years in college, whatever. But anyways, I mean, that's why experiential learning is growing. That's why my programs are taking hold, and gap years as a whole are taking hold, is that young people are reevaluating how they want to spend their time and thinking, okay, I'm 18 years old. I'm not yet sure what I want to be when I grow up, right? That's an interesting question to pose. But at 18 years old, like, do you really have the capacity to decide? You know, I'm 27. I've changed my career now 3 times. I undoubtedly will change it many, many more times, and I want to, right?
Yeah.
Probably. So that's where experiential learning and gap years as a whole are coming into place, because young people are reevaluating how they want to spend their time and thinking about, okay, I'm not yet ready to spend $20,000 to go take general ed requirements. Why not go work at, a resort as, in food and beverage, for example, make a couple bucks, live in Sedona, explore mountain biking, go check out the Grand Canyon in Las Vegas, meet some people from all over the world, and then figure out my next step. A lot of time, I spend a lot of time thinking about what is the mission of AdventureEXP, and I discovered it maybe 6 months ago, is that we want our participants, when they finish their program, to be more confident in whatever their next step is. And the reason it's articulated that, it's an important distinction, is that I'm not entitled to an opinion. I'm not entitled to say, well, after you finish this program, you were an engineer working on an HVAC system at a hotel in Yellowstone. You really should go on and pursue mechanical engineering. No, the reality is I want them to be more confident in whatever their next step is. So if they know they want to go into college and study mechanical engineering, good, be more confident. If they know they want to follow a girl down to Argentina to work another winter as a ski instructor there, good, be more confident.
You should do that.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Do it. If not now, then when?
Yeah.
So,
If not now, then when?
That's true, man. Which is, it kind of covered the mission statement. You've covered the motive behind it and where this idea came from. So kind of walk me through if someone finds you organically or maybe you reach out and recruit somebody, what does that process look like? If say an 18-year-old says, okay, hey, I'm interested in AdventureEXP. How do I get started? What do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah, great question. So, our target market is about 18 to 25. Like I mentioned, gap year and college students primarily, but a college degree certainly is not required. What we do is we onboard students and we build a personality profile. We try and understand what are their goals, what are they looking to get out of this experience. Many of them, we primarily work in the hospitality and tourism industry, and many of them will not go on to pursue a career in the hospitality industry, for example, but there are transferable skills. So, we work with students that are like, hey, I'm a creative writer. I like writing comic strips. I want to be out somewhere cool in the Wild West. I want to be sustainable, meaning I want to work to be able to support myself. Yeah. And then in my free time, I want to work on creative writing. So really, that's kind of the process of figuring out a personality profile. What are you looking to get out of this experience? Then what we do is we kind of onboard you into our system. We work with career coaches as well, update your resume, prep you for your interview, and then we get you in front of our partner employers. So we partner with employers all over the United States, and then in the coming weeks and months around the world as well in those international programs I mentioned. So we prep you, get you in front of the employers that we've vetted. Then once that happens and there's a match between an employer and a student that's happy with that match, we handle the logistics of getting you there, figuring out your housing.
That's super cool.
Yeah, then while you're there, we support you both virtually and in person and host like excursions once a month. Then we also do career coaching and personal finance education, just because I believe in the power of us to be the best version of ourselves when we take time on. So while you're traveling...
personal coaching and career...
career coaching and personal finance education.
Okay. Yeah. So those are two super important places, and you're helping people get to where they want to go. You're helping the employer of that person when they're there.
Exactly.
So it's like you're doing a win-win-win situation where the student
the
wins, the company that they're working at wins, and you win.
Exactly.
And that's the best type of situation you could have in a business.
Well said.
The triple win.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're striving for every day. And look, it is a journey. The entrepreneurial journey is both personally taxing and also like within the organization. The organization is taxed by, new ideas that come and what resources it takes to be able to like go back on like a mistake that we made or something when it's truly not a mistake. It's just all part of the journey, It's nice to use our North Star that ultimately we want to help young people step out of their comfort zone and have meaningful experiences.
That's epic.
That's so powerful, man. It's just really, it's motivating. It's impacting a lot of lives. It's so cool that you found this vision that you had and you've created into this entity that's probably going to continue to blow up. I can just see this thing really taking off, man. Circling back to what we started this conversation about, getting away from the screens and the social, comforts of social media, and take a chance, go out and travel, go do some work in Florida, or go study abroad or do whatever to figure out your next move. That's so cool because if something like that was available to me when I was 18, I guarantee I would have jumped on it.
Wow, thanks for saying that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's encouraging.
Because I was always searching for something. Like, do I do college? Do I go join the military? What do I do now? And at that time, I moved to Denver, so some things got shooken up. But if something like that was available to me, guarantee I'd be interested.
Wow, thanks for saying that.
You bet.
Yeah, for sure. For the young young go-getter, whoever is like eager to explore the world. Like, what a great opportunity. It really is.
I think so too.
I mean, and that's something that I feel like we all recognize in our 30s. Like, and I know you haven't hit your 30s yet, so God bless you. But
What's coming?
I no longer take shots. I sip my alcohol.
I understand.
So things like that. But no, but like you know, you start reflecting back on life, like as time continues to pass.
True.
And looking back, those type of experiences that you didn't know when you were having that experience how great it was,
Right.
but it was amazing.
Yes.
You know, and that's something that is priceless because that's experience. That's, you know, part of your business name, you know, is experiences in there. And so it's like to be able to harness that and be aware of what you're experiencing and be brave enough to make yourself uncomfortable. Like, we usually like to ask people, you know, Adam, if you had a piece of advice to give humanity,
Oh boy.
to everybody's going to be better tomorrow because of the advice that you give. You know, what's the piece of advice?
That's a great question. I think be kind. I think kindness is the greatest strength we have as humans, and not everyone, you know, I can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. And there's something truly, truly powerful in that. The same power and the same fuel that lit the stars that we see every night, to be kind. That's my advice.
Kindness does speak volume. You know, it really does go a long way. Kill them with kindness, they say sometimes, you know. Even if you're dealing with like an uneasy individual, still being kind, I feel like, is taking that higher road. You know, that's something I work on all the time. You know, rather than choosing combat or conflict, just kill them with kindness.
I agree.
You know, good advice, man.
Yeah, appreciate that, guys.
It is, you know, in some of my darker places when I would feel disrespected, I would try to look at it like this, you know, be true to thine self. You know, it's like one of those things where like you realize that somebody being negative towards you is an external input. And so if I'm going to be true to myself, then regardless if I'm being respected or not, I will be respectful. And so that's kind of what I'm picking up from all that. It's like, you know, to be truly kind, to the definition, is to have a place of sympathy in your heart. You know, and to recognize and be able to empathize with other scenarios that you're not familiar with, because what was the word again? Sonder. Yes, I almost said it. you know, Sonder. Like, everyone's going to have their own experience.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's going to have their own story to tell, and if you can be kind through that and not be judgmental because an experience is different than your own, then there's a lot of love there. There's a lot of joy there, of happiness, of sustainability. Things like that kind of hit my emotional flow.
Oh, interesting.
Well, when I think about truly being kind, like, what does that mean? What does it truly mean? Like, because I don't agree with everybody, and not everybody agrees with me, and I'm fine with that. You know, but within that, I can still be respectful and allow another to live, you know, and without imposing upon. So it's so interesting because when you start diving into, like, sure, it's a simple statement like, let's be kind, like, you know, and sure, but like, there's so much meaning behind what that actually means. If we want to understand what actually being kind is.
Yeah, that's a good point, Art, for sure. You know, and I think it pertains to everything we've said tonight. You know, just talking about the differences of opinions and people's upbringings and different, you know, points of view and life goals. You know, in the end, you know, it ties into judgmental too, because I think we're all a little guilty. Well, I know I am of you know, having those judgments on people sometimes, and I think this podcast has helped me be less judgmental and be more accepting of just hearing people's experiences and their opinions on things. That's, I think, what we need a little bit more of, is having an open forum kind of discussion. Hey, this is how I feel about something. Well, that's cool. I don't necessarily agree with you there, rather than attacking each other on social media and stuff like that. So, You know, we could go a whole rabbit hole on that.
Yeah, with that, I think it just takes a lot of time. So coming back to like the quick fix of convenience of using an ibuprofen, right? Like the reason we've adopted that in our culture and in our psyche is because we want to be as efficient as possible, right? So to take enough time to hear somebody out, especially the people that you disagree with, it takes a long time to hear them out. And then if there's space to share your opinion and agree to disagree, or hopefully, I mean, I absolutely love when someone can change my mind, because I get dead set on some ideas. And when someone's able to change my mind, and I strive for that every single day, that I'm like, all right, who's going to change my mind on something today? So it just takes a lot of time. You know, on the topic of kindness, I think about an example that I actually have kept private until now, but I would like to share it if you guys are open to it.
Please do.
So I live up in Leadville, and I come down to Denver for physical therapy because I love my physical therapist, but and like the relationship, she helped me through this injury. But anyways, beside the point. And I have a dog, so I go up to Boulder because a friend of mine has a pet food store up there. So I load up on a bunch of stuff. You know, I live in a small town. We don't have access to that kind of stuff. So I go up there before the store opens to spend some quality time with him. And I walk out. It's like, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning, 7 a.m., whatever. And I see, while I'm chit-chatting, it's like a Midwest goodbye. You got to say goodbye like 6 different times in different places. I don't know if you guys know, like a Midwest goodbye, it's a real thing.
Okay, yeah, I've experienced that.
Yeah, so we're on our 6th goodbye, Midwest goodbye, and we're out in the parking lot, and I see these young kids getting out of their car. They're in the parking lot, and they've got jumper cables. So I just shout over. I'm like, hey, you know, you need a jump or whatever? And they're like, yeah, actually, we do need some help. So I loop around there. The guy was 20, girl was 19. They just moved up here from Houston, Texas. They're living out of their car while they're just waiting to get an apartment, and they are hustling and bustling. They're doing Uber Eats. They're doing like all the delivery services. Yeah. They're just like rocking it. And, you know, talking about at the beginning, people change from either running from something or chasing after something. These kids are chasing after something in life. And that's everything I believe in because of the kids that I support on my program. So yeah. I see my kids in these kids. And when I say kids, I mean my kids on my program. So anyhow, I'm chit-chatting with them, and they've never jumped a car. I'm teaching them how to jump a car. Their battery is dead as disco. You know, they moved from Houston to Colorado.
Is disco dead?
It was in this instance, at least, okay?
No, I'm joking.
So I looked at them, and I just said, like, okay, this is not a pity thing. I would be delighted to buy you a battery. I want to take you over to the AutoZone. I just called ahead and found your model of car and your battery or whatever. Get you a wrench set. It'll be your first tool set that's going to be in your apartment.
Oh,
and
that's
I would
cool,
be delighted
man.
to get you set up not because you need it. Yeah. The fact that you don't need it is why I want to help you, because not everyone can help. You know, I can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. So I take them over there. I get them set up. I buy their battery. I bring them back, or I get their wrenches. And as I'm driving back, I'm thinking about the concept of overhelping. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about this, but I think about it with my students all the time, is that there is such a thing as overhelping. Yeah. So I decided on the drive back, I remembered when I was in Arizona this past summer, moving some students into my program. I got my first flat tire, and I struggled my ass off changing my first tire. And the vindication that I felt when I changed my first tire, I knew driving them back to the parking lot that I was like, all right, I'm going to tell them that I have to leave because they deserve to change their own battery and to go back to work and keep hustling and bustling. So I just said, hey, you know, I've got to go to this appointment. You want to, you know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey kind of thing, because they'd never done it before. And then I left them, and I haven't heard from them since, and I likely never will. But
they did it, though.
Oh, yeah, they did.
They totally did it.
Sometimes I fantasize about the joy that they must have felt when they changed their battery. And the truth is, when you give a gift, you get a gift.
It's true.
And the joy that I experience in being able to mentally go to that and think about those 2 kids that moved to Boulder from Houston, and oh my gosh, it just fills me up with everything I'm chasing in life. So that's to elaborate on being kind, and that's not to put me on a pedestal saying that's not at all how I feel about it.
It's not taken that way.
Yeah, as a concept, we all have the power to help someone.
Yeah. That's a powerful story, man, for sure. Just you know, those selfless acts, you know, whether it's even just giving them a jump, you know, that selfless act of, well, I don't have time for this individual, I'm just going to keep going. Take a little time out. You know, I was going to close this up. I'm glad you brought it up, because I was going to close this up with one of the greatest gifts you can give someone is the gift of your time. You know, and I was going to thank you for sharing your time with us tonight. But
likewise,
giving your time to these young individuals from Houston to Boulder, probably changed their life. You know, I mean, it taught them a skill set. You know, it taught them some kindness. You know, just
Wrenches aren't cheap.
Wrenches aren't cheap.
Yeah, and righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I was thinking about that on the
Crucial.
drive home. Like, when did I learn that?
I've done construction since I was 11, and I still say that to myself.
Yeah.
I do all the time.
Oh my
as well.
gosh, I'm blushing like thinking about it. Like those kids, I cried on my way home just thinking about how lucky I was that I got to spend my morning with them.
So cool,
awesome,
man.
Yeah.
Those experiences are very fulfilling. They're heartwarming. You know, and yeah, again, like you said, not to put yourself on a pedestal, but just doing those selfless acts of kindness, elaborating on kindness, goes a long way.
You give. So here's the secret to a piece of happiness. I'll say it's a secret to a piece of happiness, not
I
happiness.
appreciate that distinction.
As a total, but to give without expecting to receive, there's a power there that because you're able, you know, because you can, like. And to do that for somebody, you know, is a selfless act. And I have experienced that where somebody has helped me out, a stranger has helped me in a selfless way. And I'm like, you're a godsend. Like, wow, how blessed am I to you came at the perfect time. You know, and to be able to, like what you did, to pass that along and just like, it's like the baton run. Like you just pass the torch of giving without expecting to receive, and that is such a great place to be.
And it's such a pleasurable place to be. Just truly, when you give, you get. You get.
Yeah, it's true. And approaching with that mindset, right, which we choose to do every day, then man, happiness it's right there in your fingertips, you know, not expect, well, I did this nice deed for someone. I should, you know, that's
I'm entitled to this.
Exactly.
No.
You got to remove that a little bit. And that's, you know,
And that's hard too.
It is.
It is.
No, it is.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the central theme that we've been talking about tonight is a lot about mindfulness. Mindfulness is unbelievably hard. It takes resources, primarily time, energy, and mistakes. A lot of mistakes, but me personally, I feel like mindfulness has been the central theme of this evening, and for me, it's been unbelievably beneficial and pleasurable to talk about this with you guys. So this has been fun.
Excellent.
It's a great episode, man.
Yeah, I'm getting
Thanks for
emotional
having me.
here at the end.
Oh, that's cool.
Like I feel like I need to you know, clear out the puddles. But like that's a good thing. Like so one motivational thing, and I'll, you know, keep it short. But it's good to feel emotions. It's not good to be emotional. So what that means is it's good to feel what is within things, but it's not good to be overzealous and constantly controlled by things. So let's that's the believe and achieve this week is let's believe in, you know, having those moments of emotion, because emotion is important to feel. It's important to feel good, and there's an energy to where you feel like tearing up for information, because that's a powerful place. There's a reason why those tears come on, is because it's a powerful place. So that's feeling emotion, but let's stray from being emotional. Let's not let the external affect our internal. Let's be solid within ourselves and be true within ourselves, to where we don't need to be emotional about how things are going, but we can feel emotion about how we're doing things. So that's my believe and achieve for this week.
It's good advice, Art, for sure. This has been a good app, man. You know,
Super
we
good app.
really stayed on a strong subject that I think is going to touch a lot of listeners and viewers. And, you know, before we close out, Adam, please tell our viewers and listeners, and we'll include all of your links, everything in the show notes down below. As always, guys, where can people go? Get in touch.
Check us out on our website, AdventureEXP.com. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, etc. I believe in the power of meaningful travel, and if you're thinking about making a shift in your life and you want to start with us, I'd be delighted. And if you want to start elsewhere and you find your way towards us, we'll have you all the same. So, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, thanks for making the trip down. You know, Leadville's not a close place. I know you said you're going to be in the Denver area, so things kind of worked out. But, again, man, the greatest gift you can give someone is a gift of your time. I truly do believe that. And just sharing this time with you gentlemen tonight has been fantastic.
Completely agree. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Everybody, believe and achieve. Let her rip, tater chip. Fucking own it. The week is young, because we have more weeks, and it's going to happen, man. Be good to yourselves.
You deserve it.